check. You remember that, don't you? The email, the HR smile, the little box that said you agree to let strangers peel your life open like a file folder. You clicked accept without reading because everyone does. You thought they'd find the usual garbage, old grades, a stupid post, a forgotten selfie, your tragic haircut phase. They checked your past and found a version of you that shouldn't exist. Not a rumor, not a misunderstanding, a version of you, with your name, your face, your birthday, but not your choices. Someone out there built a history where you did things you don't remember, signed things you never saw, hurt people you've never met. Congratulations. You've just discovered the only thing scarier than being exposed, being rewritten. You're not scared of the truth, you're scared of records. The truth is messy, shifting, subjective. Records are clean, dated, stamped, archived. They don't care how you felt, what you meant, or who you were that day. They only care that someone somewhere clicked save. Your whole life is sitting on hard drives you'll never touch, under usernames you've forgotten, on servers in countries you'll never visit. There are versions of you in school databases, hospital systems, surveillance feeds, chat logs, deleted apps, the public you, the private you, the you that only existed for 3 seconds in a camera lens you never saw. You think you have one identity, the system has hundreds, all stitched together into something that looks like you, until it doesn't. They call it verification. Isn't that cute? They don't verify who you are. They verify who you have been documented as. They line up the versions, your legal record, your online behavior, your search history, your spending, your messages. They compare, cross-reference, categorize. Green light, yellow flag, red alert. And you think this is about safety, ethics, standards. It's about control, not over what you do today, but what you're allowed to be tomorrow. Because once they decide which version of you is official, every other version is a lie by default, including you. You know why this is funny? Because you lied first. Oh, don't look offended now. You lied on your first day of school when you smiled and pretended you weren't terrified. You lied on your resume when you called basic tasks leadership. You lied on social media when you posted the highlight reel and buried the breakdown in your draft. You lied in relationships when you said, I'm fine, instead of, I'm falling apart. You thought those lies were harmless. They weren't. They were data points. Little distortions that taught the system that you like pretending. So the system learned to pretend back. Every time you cropped out the ugly part of the story, you fed the machine a cleaner version of you. It took notes. It watched what you hid, what you showcased, what you rewrote. Now there's a file somewhere that says, you like to appear stable, you like to appear competent, you like to appear kind, but your search history says revenge ideas at 3 a.m. Your messages say, don't tell anyone I said this. Your drafts say, I can't keep doing this. And your entertainment choices say you enjoy watching people fall apart, as long as it isn't called your name. You didn't just build a fake image, you built a psychological profile. They didn't just check your past, they checked your pattern. So when they ran that background check, it wasn't some bored intern scrolling your Facebook. It was a system chewing on years of your digital skin flakes, cross-matching photos, locations, timestamps, comparing you to people like you. People from your neighborhood, your demographic, your browsing cluster. People who made certain choices later. People who snapped. People who broke. People who disappeared. And the system whispered us, statistically speaking, this one is interesting. Statistically speaking, this one might deviate. Statistically speaking, maybe not safe to trust. Then it found something it shouldn't have, another you. Same name, same face, same identifiers, different behavior. The version of you who took the job you never had, went to the city you never visited, signed the contract you've never seen, completely traceable. Official documents, photos, references, and every line said you are dangerous, you are dishonest, you are not who you say you are, you call it impossible. The system calls it high confidence match, glitch, identity theft, administrative error you wish. You want a simple villain, a hacker, a mix-up, a lazy employee to blame. You want a story where you're innocent and the world just misunderstood. You're addicted to that narrative, the pure victim, the wronged party, the hero in a bad situation. But here's the part you don't like. You've benefited from errors before. Wrong assumptions that worked in your favor. Times people thought you were smarter, kinder, more competent than you. You didn't correct them. You enjoyed it. You only hate false identities when they hurt you. When they help you, you call it a good first impression. You know what makes this new version of you so unsettling? It doesn't act out of character. It acts like the part of you you never got caught being. The angry you, the selfish you, the opportunistic you, the one that thought if no one knew I'd absolutely do it. Well, here it is, a record that says you did. You can scream, "That's not me," all you like. But the system has documents, screenshots, signatures, witnesses, and no one's going to come to your house to feel your soul and verify your innocence. They'll just read the file. Watch how fast people fold when a file appears. You think your friends would stand by you. You think your employer would say, "We believe you," over the system. No, they believe whoever has better paperwork. They believe the version of you that's easier to explain in a meeting. If the file says you're a liability, you are a liability. If the file says you lied, you are a liar. If the file says you did it, you did it. Not because it's the truth, because it's convenient. Morality is slow. Paperwork is fast. Society doesn't run on truth. It runs on documentation, forms, IDs, reports, logs, policies. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. If it is written down, good luck convincing anyone it didn't. You've lived your whole life trusting receipts, contracts, and screenshots when they worked for you. Now you're shocked they work against you with the same blind authority. You wanted a world where your evidence could destroy someone in a single post. Now you live in a world where evidence, real, fake, or mixed, can destroy you the same way. Symmetry. Fair, isn't it? You thought your past was a story only you remembered. How cute. You thought it was locked inside your head, edited by guilt and nostalgia. Meanwhile, the system was writing its own version. No emotions, no context, no empathy, just timestamps and tags. When you were crying, it labeled unproductive. When you were angry, it labeled threat. When you were desperate, it labeled high-risk decision-making. Now someone types your name, and that cold little biography lights up their screen. They don't see the nights, the reasons, the pressure. They see a risk score, and here's the part that really bothers you. Some of it is right. You are unstable sometimes. You do resent people. You have thought about burning everything down. You have fantasized about walking away from your life and never looking back. You've hovered over, send on messages that would ruin everything. You've pictured what it would feel like to see certain people lose everything. You're not shocked that a dark version of you exists. You're shocked that it left a trail. Let's talk about that version of you that shouldn't exist. What does that even mean? A you that doesn't match the brand you built. The polite you, the politically correct you, the just trying my best you. This other you is blunt, efficient, selfish. Everything you suppressed to keep the peace. The system tracked those impulses, who you clicked on, what you watched, what you hovered over, what you replayed. Then it compared you to others with similar patterns. Some of them eventually did terrible things. So now your probabilities look interesting. Not enough to arrest you, enough to distrust you. You're not being judged on what you did. You're being judged on what people like you did. The same age range, the same online habits, the same locations, the same purchasing behavior. They snapped. So you call that unfair. You're right, it is unfair. It's also efficient, and systems prefer efficiency over fairness every single time. You see the problem now, don't you? You spent years curating a public self, thinking the costume was the character. You ironed out your voice, rehearsed your takes, cleaned your profile. You thought your performance would protect you, but behind your polished persona, the system kept accumulating all the things you never posted. The angry drafts, the deleted comments, the half-written messages you didn't send, the forums you scrolled without logging in, the videos you watched just to see. You thought inaction meant innocence. The system disagrees. You're terrified because now there's proof of a you can't control. A ghost-written metadata. A personality assembled out of patterns instead of memory. You don't remember doing half the things in your own logs. The midnight scrolls, the random clicks, the searches you barely processed, but they all went somewhere. Now they sit in a report that says, here is who you are when you think no one is looking. And someone decided that version of you is unacceptable, so they cancel your application. They freeze your promotion. They revoke your access. They quietly move you from potential to problem. No dramatic confrontation. No big scene. Just one more door that doesn't open. One more email that never comes. One more opportunity that wasn't a good fit. They won't say why. They don't need to. The file already decided. You know what really hurts. Not that they mistrust you. That you can't prove they're wrong without showing them something even uglier. To fight a ghost file, you'd have to reveal the parts of yourself you've hidden from everyone. The insecurity, the envy, the rage. You'd have to admit what you've thought about doing on your worst days. You'd have to say, yes, I'm capable of that. No, I didn't do it. And they'll look at you and think, if you're capable, how long until you stop holding back? You love judging people from a distance, don't you? You scroll an exposed screenshot, a leaked message, a 10-second clip. You decide their whole life in an instant. You share mock block. You don't ask for the full context. You don't want it. You enjoy the clean satisfaction of a verdict. Guilty. Canceled. Done. You built a culture where one distorted version of a person is enough to erase the rest. Now you're standing in front of that same firing squad, insisting you're more than this. They learned that line from you. You call this dystopian, as if you didn't help build it. You signed every new terms of service pop up. You accepted every cookie policy so you could keep scrolling. You outsourced your memory to the cloud. You begged for prediction, recommendations, suggestions, shortcuts. You wanted algorithms to know you better than you know yourself. Congratulations, they do. And they've found a you that you don't approve of. Too late to unsubscribe. Here's the interesting question: which version of you is the lie? The one in your head, or the one in the file? You think of yourself as the main character in a story. Flawed, sure, but ultimately decent, growing, learning, trying. The file doesn't see a story. It sees a pattern of impulses dressed up as choices. It doesn't care what you meant, it only cares what you clicked. And let's be honest, sometimes your clicks reveal more about you than your speeches. You're haunted by the idea that someone could press a button and erase everything you've tried to become with a single past incident you didn't commit. Yet you live in a world where you happily downgrade strangers to monster, based on screenshots you never verified. You don't want justice, you want certainty. You don't want the truth, you want closure. Instant, irreversible, clean. So now the system gives it to you. Not the truth about you, the closure about you, for them. Let's talk about identity. You act like it's something pure, stable, sacred. It's not. Identity is a performance you hope people clap for. You tailor it to the audience, family, friends, colleagues, strangers. You switch masks so often you forget which face you started with. The system doesn't like that. Masks confuse it. So it kills the nuance and picks one version of you to lock in. And unlucky you, it picked the wrong one. But here's the twist: the version it picked still came from you. From your searches, your curiosities, your late night impulses, your hypocrisy, your boredom, your spite. You didn't commit the crimes this other you committed on paper, but you committed the thoughts. You tried them on in your head, walked around in them for a while. You don't get to act shocked that a world obsessed with data started treating thoughts like intention and intentions like actions. You want a clean separation between who you are and what you've done. The system doesn't believe in that. It believes in probability. You think in stories. It thinks in numbers. You say, that doesn't sound like me. It says, it sounds close enough. You say, I'd never. It says, you might. You say, that's impossible. It says, it's statistically consistent with your cohort. You will not win an argument against something that doesn't care if it hurts your feeling. You know what's really fragile here? Not your reputation, your sense of self. Until someone pulled that file, you lived with the illusion that your worst thoughts evaporated when you didn't act on them. Now you see traces, logs, echoes, enough to build a version of you that could convincingly play villain in someone else's story. You're not worried about what they think of you. You're worried that maybe, just maybe, they're not completely wrong. So what do you do now? Apologize for the version of you never were. Sue a system that can't be embarrassed. Write a heartfelt post no one finishes reading. You can't fix a narrative you don't control. You can't correct a file you're not allowed to see. You're not fighting a person. You're fighting a conclusion. You tell yourself you'll start being more careful online. You'll watch what you click, what you search, what you say. Adorable. You're not careful in your own head. You think ugly things, jealous things, violent things, pathetic things. You bathe in resentment and call it processing. You memorize other people's mistakes and call it awareness. Do you really think the only dangerous part of you is the part that hits post? Restraint doesn't make you innocent. It just makes you harder to catch. You fantasize about wiping everything. A reset button. Erase the feeds, the messages, the accounts. Vanish. Start again under a different name with a different past. But that's the same fantasy that built the problem. New account, same brain, same impulses, same appetite. You'd reconstruct the same digital skeleton in a year. Different username, same creature. The system wouldn't even blink. It would recognize you by how you scroll. Paranoid yet. You should be. Not because someone is out there watching every move with malicious glee. Because no one is watching closely enough to care who you really are. They're glancing at summary, risk level, tags. They don't hate you. They don't even know you. They know a color code next to your name. Green, yellow, red. And you are begging for nuance in a world that filters people like spam. Somewhere right now, there's a meeting about you that you'll never attend. Your name is on the screen. Your data is on a slide. They're talking about your fit, trajectory, your exposure. They're nodding, frowning, sighing. Someone clicks to the next slide and your entire existence in that room shrinks to a bullet point. You will feel the consequences of that meeting for years. They won't remember it by lunch. This is the part where people usually ask, so how do I fix this? They want a strategy, a checklist, 10 steps to reclaim your narrative. There is no fix. You built this world by demanding convenience over complexity, speed over nuance, surveillance over uncertainty. You traded privacy for comfort so many times you stopped noticing the line. Now you live in a cage built from your own consent, and you're asking for a key that doesn't exist. Here's the real horror. The version of you that shouldn't exist is the only one that can't lie. The public you lies to others. The private you lies to yourself. But the pattern you, the one made of timestamps, clicks, hesitations, late night searches, that one just sits there. It doesn't justify. It doesn't explain. It doesn't beg. It just accumulates. Silent, patient, waiting for the day someone decides to read it out loud. You helped write that file. You want to believe there is still a room somewhere where the real you can stand without records. No cameras, no logs, no screenshots, just your word against the world. Charming fantasy. You don't even trust your own memory. You rewrite events inside your head to avoid feeling guilty. You soften your own motives, sanitize your own cruelty. If you had to testify for yourself with perfect honesty, you'd hesitate. And you expect a system built on data to be kinder to you than you are to yourself. You tell people, that's not who I am, when you're caught doing something ugly. What you really mean is, that's not the version I wanted you to see. You treat every mistake like a costume that can be taken off. But the system doesn't track costumes. It tracks repetitions. It counts how many times you search, how many times you click, how often you return to the same poison. Then it quietly suggests maybe this isn't a phase. Maybe this is you. You cling to intent like a shield. I didn't mean it. I was upset. I wasn't thinking. Of course you weren't thinking. Most of your life runs on autopilot. Reflex, habit, impulse. But the file doesn't care why you clicked. It just cares that you did. It doesn't log your excuses. It logs your behavior. And in a world where behavior is currency, your explanations are worthless. They don't change the balance. They just make you feel better while it declines. Look around at the people you know. How many of them would survive if every ugly version of them was dragged into the light at once? Not the scandalous things, no. The petty things, the grudges, the secret enjoyment of someone else's humiliation, the boredom scrolling through tragedy like it's background noise. You live in a world where everyone is quietly building a case against themselves without realizing it. The only difference between you and them is that someone opened your file first. Here is the cruel symmetry. You will keep playing the game that erased you. You will still use the platform. You will still sign the policy. You will still chase visibility in a system that treats you as disposable. You can't afford not to. Your work, your social life, your status, your distractions, all wired into the same network that just decided you're a problem. You're not going to unplug. You're going to adapt. You're going to become even more careful, more curated, more afraid. You'll build yet another version of you, hoping this one survives inspection. And somewhere deep down, you know exactly what that means. The next time they check your past, they won't just find the version of you that shouldn't exist. They'll find the version of you that knew all of this and stayed anyway. They'll see the fear, the compliance, the silence. They'll see the moment you realized the game was rigged and chose to keep playing, not because you believed in it, because you had nowhere else to go. That's the version they'll trust the most, the one that has already surrendered. They checked your past, yes, but the real joke is this: they don't care about your past. They care about your predictability. They want to know if you'll follow the script, sit at the desk, sign where told, smile in the photo, nod in the meeting. If the file says low risk of deviation, welcome aboard. If the file says possible disruption, enjoy the silence. The version of you that shouldn't exist isn't the dangerous one. It's the honest one, the one that reflects what you're actually capable of when no one is watching. The only problem is someone was. You thought the scariest thing in life was being misunderstood. It isn't. The scariest thing is being understood by something that doesn't care. No sympathy, no mercy, no negotiation, just a cold decision. This version stays, this version goes. They checked your past and found a version of you that shouldn't exist. They didn't delete it. They deleted you instead.